How's it going, guys? Shape here, and welcome to the channel. This video is going to cover what changes I have found so far on the PTR as a reference to gold farms I have covered in the past. I have been messing around on the PTR on and off to get gold per hour on a lot of the farms I have been showing you guys recently. Also, I wanted to kind of go over what this means with the release of the PTR in terms of when I think Shadowlands will release. Based on the information from the last two expansions, my guess is the end of October to November if it follows past expansions. The Legion pre-patch on PTR was released on June 16th and the expansion was released on August 30th. The BFA pre-patch on PTR was released on June 15th and the expansion was released on August 15th. Now, from what I've seen on the beta and have heard from others in the community is that Shadowlands is not even close to being ready for an end of October to November launch. This has me skeptical on if we will have a repeat of BFA where all of the systems we should be excited about end up being total disasters and everyone hates them until they are fixed after the first tier. Now that is all just speculation based off previous data and my educated guess, so let's go ahead and hop into finding out the gold changes and what those methods are. Be sure to turn on your notifications, make sure you have that bell rung, and drop a like so you don't miss any of my future content. If you have any questions, drop a comment or tweet at me. The first method I wanted to cover, and one of my absolute favorites that I have made millions and millions of gold off of, is the Atal Thar farm. This farm is where you would clear Atal Thar 10 times on normal mode and skin all the dinosaurs in the middle ring. It would take most people around 30 minutes to clear, with some of the more geared and elites around 20 minutes. This would correlate into 2 to 3 full lockout clears and around 15,000 to 20,000 gold per hour of time invested in the farm. You would then have your leather worker turn the shimmer scales and bloodstained bones into the shimmer scale strikers and sell those to the vendor for 57 to 69 gold depending on the quality of the item. Once I was on the PTR, this was the first method that I wanted to test. A couple of notes on the farm itself. The level squish seems to have made this farm more difficult as the mobs either hit harder or my character wasn't doing the same amount of damage because of the removal of corruption. Either way, I went in there like I had done this thousands of times before and actually had issues killing the mobs at the speed I was used to. Not only did it seem that the snap method of gathering up a large group of mobs and using one of the pillars to snap them all to you wasn't working correctly, they just didn't die instantly like I was used to. Now this could be glitched on the PTR and it may fix itself on live, but that's just something to note. Also, I actually died on a few attempts in here, which never happened before. For an hour's worth of farming, you will still get around 130 strikers worth of materials, so there wasn't any nerf to the materials that drop from here, but don't expect much else to be the same. I didn't really get any green items to drop that were usually vendored for a little bit more gold either. When I went to actually craft the strikers, this is when the real shock hit and you can pull out the tiny violin for this farm. A green quality striker went from 57 gold to a mere 28 silver. Oof. That about wraps this one up, as once pre-patch hits, this will end the Atal Thar farm, so if you guys use this one for a main source of income, I suggest you really crush it until that day comes, because this one is totally toast. I was pretty shook from the experience I had in Atal Thar, so I decided to go and do another favorite spot of mine, which was the Stonehide Leather farm in Legion. This farm is similar to the Atal Thar farm where you're going to be using the leather gained from here to craft the warhide shoulder guards and just sell them to the vendor. After an hour of farming, you would expect around 4,000 Stonehide leather plus the additional you get from turning in the Bloods of Sargeras into Dalaran vendor for more, and you will have around 4,600 to show for your time spent. This would be enough materials to craft 383 warhide shoulder guards, which sold for 28 gold apiece to the vendor, and it would net you around 11,000 gold for the hour's worth of your time. With that said, I moseyed on over to my usual farm spot and began the hour farm to see if the materials were the same. Just like the Atal Thar farm, they were indeed the same amount of materials, and I had around 4,000 Stonehide leather to show for my efforts. A little side note is also the level squish. I wasn't one-shotting these mobs all the time, but it's nothing like the Atal Thar farm since that one could kill you if you're not careful. I sent the materials over to my leather worker and crafted a warhide shoulder guard for a little over 4 gold if I were going to sell it to a vendor. Big oof again. Another one, if you guys are currently doing this farm, go ahead and take advantage of it while you can because it's pretty much worthless once the pre-patch hits. Not as worthless as the strikers, but still a tough one to swallow. Okay. Enough of all the changes happening in the PTR for us raw gold farmers. Let's switch it up and head over to the Warlords of Draenor instances and try our luck out there. These instances have lasted expansion after expansion with not really too much changing to them. Our first stop on the list was Skyreach. The mobs are now level 40 instead of level 90, but they aren't too much to deal with now either. I was able to do the same method with grabbing everything up to the first boss, kill that, and keep dragging all the mobs up to the second boss. Usually I'm able to kill the mob in front of the boss and then kill the boss to keep moving on, but I think the game was glitching out or something because I couldn't target the second boss for some reason. This again is probably a bug, and you can usually just keep pulling all of the mobs up until the third boss to kill them off and then just kill the third boss. Do the wind tunnel run like normal and grab the rest of the mobs up until the last boss. This one was very similar to what I was used to, so let's compare the results. On live right now, you can get anywhere from 400 to 500 gold per run in Skyreach that will total up to 4,000 to 5,000 gold per lockout on your 10 runs. This has been the go-to farm for a lot of people for a long time because it is pretty mindless and you don't have to worry about dying. Well, as the first two have fallen, so must this farm. After looting everything and all the bosses, I didn't even get to 100 gold. Skyreach, it has been fun, but I don't foresee myself or anyone coming and mindlessly grinding you in the near future. I even decided to go do Iron Docks because it's pretty similar gold per hour to Skyreach, but I hate it because you have to be inside the mobs to aggro them and it takes a ton of time, so I usually avoid it. With that said, just don't even go over there, and that's all I'm gonna say. It is even worse than Skyreach in terms of gold per hour. With all of my go-to dungeon farms shooting blanks, let's switch it up and hit up the raids I have raved about in the past. Since we were in Draenor anyway, I flew over to Hellfire Citadel. Hellfire Citadel is the best raid in terms of gold per hour to currently be doing. If you do all of the difficulties, then you could walk away with a little over 11,000 gold for your efforts here. I didn't really see any difference for the time it took to clear these raids, so at least that was consistent. When I entered the raid, I noticed that something was a little weird because it was on personal loot and not legacy loot. If you guys don't know the difference in these two, it's pretty simple. Legacy raid loot kicks in when you're at least 11 levels higher than the instance you are doing, which pretty much means for most old content you will be receiving legacy loot. Legacy loot will drop you 4 to 6 items from each boss. Personal loot, on the other hand, isn't a guaranteed drop off of every boss, and you will only drop one piece if you get lucky enough. I pushed on even though I noticed this right off the bat and killed the first boss. Significant, and I mean significant difference in the amount you can sell that item that dropped to a vendor, even if you had a piece drop. The king of all raids was indeed squished along with everything else, and for my one run through Mythic Hellfire Citadel, I was awarded around 500 gold. I didn't even bother running on other difficulties because if it was nerfed on Mythic, then the rest of the difficulties will follow. Assuming you get lucky and it's consistent with the other difficulties, you will have around a few thousand gold for this farm now. I wasn't defeated yet, and I decided to check the other raids for you guys just to be sure. Unfortunately, the madness struck in Blackrock Foundry and High Mall. On live, you don't get near the amount of raw gold you do as Hellfire Citadel, but it was still decent. Well guys, once this hits the live servers, you can mark these two off your list as well, because I have even worse results from those raids. It is a sad time for raw gold farmers that have been doing these for quite some time because they have remained untouched throughout the years. I did stop after I was done with the Warlords of Draenor raids, so I don't know if any of the other raids also had the legacy loot issue. If anyone knows if all raids are like that, just drop a comment below to let myself and the others know. I am hoping that these will be fixed once the pre-patch launches, because in the past, legacy loot wasn't in the PTR pre-patch either, and it was once we got the pre-patch live. No word on that yet, but we can hope to get a little more gold for these methods if that's the case. If you guys are still hunting the longboi, then I suggest you get it before the pre-patch. The auction house prices continue to drop on a lot of other farms that are oversaturated now, with more of the player base returning, and now that the pre-patch is going to put the final nail in the coffin for more consistent raw gold farms. All good things must come to an end, and we will move into Shadowlands to find new methods that are equally as good or even better, and I can't wait to show you guys more. Well, there you have it guys. That is what I found so far in the PTR pre-patch. I hope you guys enjoyed, and don't forget to let me know any other farms you plan on hammering out while you still have time. Please drop a like if you enjoyed the video to show some love for the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.